One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is July 10th, 2013. Tonight I'm going to be going over a slew of different topics. I'm going to be throwing out my commentary and my analysis on a few of them. A bunch of different things I want to get into. Some news, even going back to the end of last week that I wasn't able to cover, and coming all the way up through the weekend into Monday and yesterday, and I have a ton of things I want to go over. The violation of the Third Amendment, the quartering troops in your house. I know that's the one amendment I think even activists and independent journalists and whatever you want to call this thing, the awakening, whatever, I don't even think that people in our genre, I'll say, expected to ever see the Third Amendment violated. But there you have it. We're going to get into that. There's a few other things I want to talk about. Kokesh getting arrested. I'm going to play some audio for you from Luke Rudkowski, because Luke's still over in Europe right now and out of phone contact. I've been going back and forth with him via email, but he was almost set up with an email with links to child pornography in it. I'm going to play the audio from he threw a quick video together to get it up there to get the story out just in case, so pretty much to cover his rear end. And I've been talking to him and trying to help him out behind the scenes, but the one thing I told him I would do is I told him I wanted to air the audio from his video so everybody could know, because he's not the only person that this has happened to. There's other people that have accidentally clicked the links, maybe not had the foresight that Luke had, and ended up getting child pornography pictures put on their computer, and then they got raided for it. And it's a thing that the government is doing. One of the writers over at Federal Jack, in fact, if you go to federaljack.com, you can look it up in the search bar. Just look up Ben Franklin, and it'll probably come up with the articles he's written. That's the author's name that he goes by is Ben Franklin, and he's written a bunch of articles about this, about how, recently too, about how people are being set up with links and stuff via email and messaging services and stuff or whatever, and it's putting child pornography on their computers, and then they get raided or whatever, or their computer gets looked at and they get locked up and they have to fight it in court. So we're going to get into that and a whole bunch of other stuff, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. I'm also going to get into Michael Hastings' death again. Don't go anywhere. All right, first let's get into the what I was telling you about with Luke, the quick story about what happened to his video he put together is only about 4 minutes, but I'll let him tell the entire story of what happened to him. And then just, you can go to youtube.com / I think it's We Are Change, whatever. Just go to YouTube and look up Luke's channel, or go to wearechange.org, because that's the website, and it's got the links to the YouTube channel there. And you could also go to federaljack.com, now that I think about it, because I also have the video up there. It's right on the front. It's titled The Attempted Setup of Luke Rudkowski. In fact, you can go there, just click on the video, and then it'll bring you to the YouTube page for that video. It'll probably be the easiest way to do it. And spread it. If you have a website, embed it on your website, put it all over. It's not only does it help Luke out, but it also gets the word out that they're doing this. And then again, go look on federaljack.com, because there's a bunch of articles that one of the authors that contributes to Federal Jack under the pen name Benjamin Franklin, it's up there, and he wrote a couple in-depth articles about this. But I digress. Let me play the audio from Luke's video for you really quick. Here's what happened to Luke recently. Make sure you pay attention, because this could happen to any of us.
This is Luke Rudkowski of wearechange.org reporting to you from Europe, and I'm making this video primarily for my safety, but to also possibly safeguard you from being set up. And just a few hours ago, I received an email on my old private high school email. Not my work email, not my We Are Change email, but my old high school email. And the email was from an unknown client. It was from a Tor email server, and it had an attachment, and it said something about a leak. Now, automatically knowing this, I had to find a new laptop. I found another laptop that wasn't connected to me, and I looked into this email. The email specifically stated that this person that was sending me this email was a whistleblower, was a leaker, that actually attended the 2013 Bilderberg meeting, that he had raw JPEG pictures of everything that happened, of the attendees, and he wanted us to have the exclusive. He told us to download these pictures and to break the story to the world and show everybody what happened. Now, obviously, I was interested, and I scrolled down. Now, luckily, Yahoo email servers actually let you preview pictures before downloading them. And when I scrolled down, I actually saw graphic, horrible, inhumane pictures of child pornography. Now, if I would have downloaded these images onto my computer and I would have re-entered the United States, just like I will be in a couple days, I would have went through customs. A few years ago, when I tried to enter Canada, I went through customs, I was put to the side, and everything I had was searched, including my laptop, which was taken to the side and investigated by forensic scientists for 5 hours. Now, if this would have happened this time, and I didn't know about the rules and laws, I would have been automatically charged with a felony. Minimum 5 years in jail, maximum 20 years in jail, and I wouldn't have been able to plead my case until months later on. I would have been arrested, had to go to bail hearings, and then months after that, actually have a court hearing to clear my name of all misdoings. But this could have very easily taken away my work, my dignity, my freedom, my reputation, and destroyed my life. Very luckily that didn't happen, and I'm making this video to make sure it doesn't happen. But every year around June, right around the Bilderberg meeting, something happens. Last year, my friend Mike P. of We Are Change Milwaukee was interrogated by DHS about me. They were asking him questions about my whereabouts, what I was wearing. And then hours after that, me and my friend Tim Poole were pulled over by DHS at gunpoint and terrorized by the Chicago PD. A couple years before that, I received death threats with personal information that nobody else would know. Even a couple years before that, my girlfriend started getting death threats. People started playing really dirty tricks. Now, my message to all the truth seekers and journalists and investigative reporters is be smart, watch your back, but most importantly, never ever open an attachment that you don't recognize is from that you don't know. Follow me on twitter.com/LukeWeAreChange or facebook.com/LukeWeAreChange to see how this trip goes. And if something does happen, we'll make sure to post it on there. Thank you so much for your support. Wish us luck. And watch your backs.
He's right. We all have to watch our backs. And if you get an email, people, you should be paying attention to what's in it. You shouldn't just randomly click on links. This is 2013. I think by now people would be a little bit more internet savvy. But there are people that'll just, they'll click on it without even checking. Like Luke said, it's a good thing that his email server, the email that it was sent to, gives a thumbnail preview. So when he scrolled down, he saw what they were, and he was appalled. And he's like, I'm not clicking on any links, anything. And even if the images weren't downloaded, even if it took you to a website, that would be linked in your computer. That'd be cookies. And your computer, everything that you see on your computer screen, your computer snaps an image of it, and it's on there. You have to go in and delete all that crap yourself. You'd have to go find it and delete it. A lot of people don't do it. I mean, a lot of it you could do yourself, by cleaning up your hard drive and everything, but technically if somebody wanted to go through it forensically, all that stuff's still going to be there. The only way that it wouldn't be is if you had one of those programs like I used to have one years ago. I don't know if they even make them anymore, but it was like a hard drive scrubber. And what you could do is you could scrub all the deleted space, the deleted files that you had on your computer. The program would go and it would scrub that area of the hard drive. It would make sure it would write over it and then rewrite over it and then rewrite over it and rewrite over it and rewrite over it and like 8 or 9 times, to the point where it was back. I think they used to say it was NSA standard or whatever. But you wouldn't be able to recover it. It would totally destroy whatever data was there. So you'd need to go to that extent to have something like that on your computer if you really want to protect yourself. But the point is, you shouldn't be clicking random links anyway. I don't trust when people email me. We get a lot of emails between the radio show and the website, federaljack.com. I don't trust 3/4 of them. I get emails all the time because we do the service with where we'll go out and we get a 4 terabyte hard drive loaded up with all the stuff I've archived over the years, and then if someone orders it, we go out and we do it. I don't have them laying around. I have to go out, and when people order them, I go out and I buy the drive, and then I come back to the studio and I spend a couple days loading it up with everything. And then I mail it out, and I usually throw DVDs and Federal Jack flyers and a bunch of other stuff in the box too. But only once in a while we'll get someone that wants them. A lot of times it's We Are Change organizations or groups like that. Other groups that are out there trying to wake people up. They want them for screenings and stuff and whatever. It's awesome that people do it. Anyway, I've had to deal with the same thing that Luke has had. I've had people email me for that, and it'll be some of the shadiest things. Oh, click this link, and it'll give you my information that you need to send it to. Yeah, okay, no thanks. Or they'll try to, could you give me a list of the content that's on it? No. Could you do this? Could you do that? It's always whoever it is, the powers that shouldn't be, someone that you pissed off, a troll, whoever. If they're going to attack you, they're going to want to do it. They're going to want to try to gain your trust. So a lot of times they're a little more sophisticated would be a proper term for it. They're a little more sophisticated at it than they used to. Back in the day, sometimes you still get it where they just drop a link and you're like, really? I know people that would randomly click it though, just because it's a link. Why wouldn't I click it? Well, what are you, a moron? So you just want to slap people for doing that. But I digress. The point is, be wary of what you're getting emailed. If you're a webmaster out there, if you're a truth teller, if you're independent media, whatever, you gotta be wary of what you're getting emailed. Be wary of what you're doing. You shouldn't be running around doing illegal things or things that you know could get you in trouble, we'll say. Whether or not, I don't really like the term illegal. It's legal ease, as you all know. And I hate to, there's a difference between lawful and legal, but if you're doing something out in the open or publicly that could get you in trouble, like if you're an independent journalist and you're out there exposing corruption, don't be stupid and go out to bars and get drunk all the time and get lit, because you can easily get set up. Somebody could put something in your drink and it could cause you to act stupid or even worse. Okay? It's just an example. Don't do things. If you're going to go out and take on the powers that shouldn't be, you really got to watch your back. You got to kind of be a clean boy. I'm not saying that you can't go out and have fun and do whatever, but you don't want to give them any ammo. So you got to just, you got to be careful. It is what it is. It might not be right. It might not be fair, but that's the way it is right now. So you just want to keep your eyes open. And again, always check your emails. And this goes for anybody. Look, just because you think you don't have a big reach, I often run into this where I meet people that they don't think they have a big reach, and they're surprised that I know of their website, like as if I'm some superstar or something. Now, I'm surprised when I meet people that know about Federal Jack or know about my radio show. So, I go through the same thing, I guess. But I've met people whose websites are very popular, and they just don't see themselves as that, and they don't think that they might be a target. But yeah, definitely, if you're out there making a difference, then you could have a target on your back. It's a reality. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but it's a reality. So watch your back, like Luke said. It's the best advice I could give you. Watch your back. Cover your ass. That means maybe sitting down and thinking about some of the things that you do, the way you do certain things. Maybe you got to change things up a little bit. Hey, it comes with the territory. I'm not saying I wholeheartely agree with that, but hey, that's the way it is. And until we can fix things and change things up, you gotta learn the rules of the game right now as it's played. Then we could change things up as we go along. But if you expect to be able to make a difference and cover your own ass and protect yourself, you got to understand how things are played and the levels that they'll go to. Look, cops plant drugs on people, right? All the time at traffic stops. There's videos of it where they plant marijuana on the cop. You'll see there's a famous video. It's on YouTube all over the place. I know I uploaded it once. The cop pulls a bag of marijuana out of his back pocket and then pretends to pull it out of the guy's pocket and says, "Oh, look what I found here." So don't think that the higher level scumbags that might be targeting you wouldn't do the same thing or more. And with more hardcore stuff like child pornography. Didn't they nail Scott Ritter with the same thing? And I don't know if, and he was a UN's weapons inspector, by the way. I don't know if, and he was against the Iraq War, and I don't know if he really was looking at child porn. I know he got nailed for it. I know he got arrested and charged for it and put in jail. But I don't know if he really was looking at it or if he was just set up, because there's been other people that are set up. So if anybody, by the way, has any information on that case, email me, vfor911@gmail.com. And don't email me links. Email me an article or information like typed out, because I won't click any links, especially after giving you this diatribe. All right, we're going to break. We'll be right back. I got a bunch of other stuff. Wait till you hear what JFK had to say back in 1961 about weather control. What? Yeah, stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So, going into break, I made a comment about President John F. Kennedy. I said that he had something to say about weather control all the way back in 1961. What? 52 years ago? Popeye, say it ain't so. They talked about weather control 50 years ago? That's just a conspiracy theory today, isn't it? Of course, I'm being sarcastic. No, it's not a conspiracy theory. They were talking about controlling space, weaponizing space, back in the 50s. When Lyndon Johnson was still a senator, they were talking about it. He talked about it on the Senate floor. Pays to know history, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't theory. It's conspiracy fact. Anyway, it's a little tidbit from a speech that JFK gave back in 1961. It's only a minute and 25 seconds. It's cut to give you the full context. He's talking about space and putting more craft into space and putting more things up in outer space, satellites, the possible weaponization of space. And they talk about being able to get the whole world together to control the weather so that all mankind can benefit. Minute and 25 seconds long. Again, 1961. For those of you that out there that say, oh, there's no such thing as weather modification, or if you've tried to tell people and you get laughed at, you can point them to this.
Salute the brave cosmonauts of the Soviet Union. The new horizons of outer space must not be riven by the old bitter concepts of imperialism and sovereign claims. The cold reaches of the universe must not become the new arena of an even colder war. To this end, we shall urge proposals extending the United Nations Charter to the limits of man's exploration in the universe, reserving outer space for peaceful use, prohibiting weapons of mass destruction in space or on celestial bodies, and opening the mysteries and benefits of space to every nation.
By the way, what he meant about weapons of mass destruction on celestial bodies, they had wanted to put nukes on the moon and having them, obviously aimed at Russian cities. That way, if Washington was ever nuked, and even if I believe wherever else their secret operations HQ at the time was nuked, they were still going to have a remote location specifically just for the moon. Who knows where they would have put it? Maybe in Iron Mountain. But they would have had this remote location. And then even if, say, Washington and the Pentagon were wiped off the face of the planet, this remote location would be able to strike back at Russia. Nobody, except very few people would know where this place was. And the missiles wouldn't be launched from anywhere in the planet, so they wouldn't be able to be sabotaged. They would be launched from outer space. And they wanted to launch them from the moon and perhaps satellites, but they definitely wanted to have literally launch pads on the moon aimed at Russia. Anyway, that's what he was talking about when he said celestial bodies. Let's get back to the part where he talks about weather control.
Shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
What? Huh? Wait, did he just say all the nations getting together to work on predicting the weather and controlling it? Let's rewind that for a second.
Cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control. We shall propose finally a global systems of communication satellites linking the whole world in telegraph and telephone and radio and television. The day need not be far away when such a system will televise the proceedings of this body to every corner of the world for the benefit of peace.
All right, we're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in a few short minutes. Thought you'd find that interesting. Controlling the weather. I guess President Kennedy was a conspiracy theorist, right? We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I hate to repeat shows. I hate to, do the same thing I've done before in the past, because I do have archives so people can go check them out. There are times, though, I specifically will maybe air the same piece of audio I've aired before and re-air it and give commentary on it, maybe even updated commentary, but I rarely do it. But I think I'm going to make an exception sometime this week, either tomorrow or Friday. I'm going to make an exception to that rule that I have. Last year I did a show, and I titled it Deconstructing Racism and the King Alfred Plan. You can go and check it out in my archives. It's from March 28th of 2012. I also actually have it posted. I reposted it as a post on Federal Jack with there's an embedded MP3 player in there that actually plays it right off the server, so you can just listen to the show there, commercial free. This is from way before I was on Unbound, a year before Unbound even existed. Anyway, I'm going to play a clip that I played in that episode later in the week because I think it needs to get rebroadcast again, and the broadcaster needs to get re-aired. And I'll comment, I'll give my commentary and analysis on it. But in that broadcast, I aired a piece that Mae Brussel did about something that was called the King Alfred Plan. Now, I actually talked to a Black Panther about this, or an ex-Black Panther, one of the old school Black Panthers, via email last year about this, and I'm trying to get him on. Sometimes it's more difficult to interview people on air than you'd think. But anyway, he gave me a really good insight as to what was going on last year. And, or I should say what was going on. Last year he gave me a really good insight as to what was going on back when the King Alfred Plan came out. Because during my analysis of it, he had heard this broadcast, and during my analysis of it, I had said, well, you never know. It sounds like a psyop because of the information about it was left on a train in specific areas, and it was known that it was going to be picked up and found out about, and people were going to get all uppity and pissed off about it, especially because of what it says. And long story short, knowing what it gets into, and I'll, like I said, I'll play the audio about the King Alfred Plan so you can get a little bit more detail on it. But basically, it was a martial law plan to round up all black people if there was a race riot. And last year I aired this because I found it interesting, because the King Alfred Plan really mimics martial law plans now that are laid out in Rex 84 and stuff, with 10 FEMA regions and everything else. The only difference is in the King Alfred Plan it specifically talks about black people, but if you look up Rex 84 and all these martial law roundup plans, the first people they round up are usually black people. I'm not kidding, this is listed in there. So I saw a lot of similarities. So I did this broadcast specifically breaking down like how they're race baiting Jesse Jackson and everything else. It's a really good broadcast. That's why I actually reposted it on Federal Jack yesterday, because it's that important for people to go and hear this older broadcast. But I will play the audio from it, from the Mae Brussel broadcast, and I think her broadcast was from either the late 60s or the early 70s when she did this one. But it's really, and I'll get the date and everything. I'll go back and look through my notes because I keep all that stuff. So I'll go back and look through my older notes on that to find out what the exact date and everything was of the original broadcast that Mae did. But you can actually, by the way, go check out Mae's archives. If you go over to Federal Jack, there's a widget that says the Mae Brussel website. Click there. You can go purchase her 25-year archive from there. It's worth it, trust me. Anyway, I want you to hear what she has to say about the King Alfred Plan, and she'll give you, her take on whether or not it's fake or real. But just hearing it, and especially this was, 30, 40 years ago this was aired, listening to it now, knowing what we know now about the 10 FEMA regions, knowing what we know now about martial law, Rex 84, the NDAA, FEMA camps, it's very telling. To me, it just, like I said, it just sounds like martial law in Rex 84, and they only talk about rounding up black people. But I'm going to tell you what, if they were going to start rounding people up, they wouldn't stop with just black people. I guarantee you they wouldn't we're just going to round up only the black people and nobody else. And nobody else would get uppity or pissed off about that, and then you're not going to round them up, and then more people are going to get pissed off about that, and you're going to round them up, and then, right. Because throughout history, that's never the way it's worked ever before, right? Right. Sure. And a lot of this, you'll hear in the broadcast, it goes back to, the old racist beliefs that people back in the day, but there's still, it's really, really creepy to listen to it because it came out, a lot of people say the King Alfred plan was fictitious and that it was garbage. But the plan itself, and again, you can, I'll go listen to the broadcast I did last year, again, March 28th, 2012. The title is Deconstructing Racism in the King Alfred Plan. But if you listen to, even if it's fictitious, if you listen to the plan, it's really creepy because it matches, again, the 10 FEMA regions and all of this. It matches the martial law plans and Rex 84 almost to a T. And I did a really good job of breaking it down last year. I'll air it again. I think I'm going to air the Mae Brussel because it's only 30 minutes. But I think I'm going to air her archive again. That's why I like sharing my airtime when I have the chance to play audio for you guys to, some hosts like to come on and just pontificate and hear themselves talk. And although I'm very good at talking and ranting and breaking things down, there are times that I could get the message across to you without even requiring me opening my mouth. Sometimes it's good for you to just hear something. Because a lot of the stuff that I play, the audio that I play for you, if I play something for you, usually it's something that I've seen obviously first myself, right? So if I deem it that, if I think that you can pull something educational or value from it, I try to play it for you. I do like to bring you guys stuff that not many other people may do. I try to be different from everybody else, as if you haven't noticed that already. Anyway, so, yeah, I think I'm going to play May again sometime this week, either tomorrow or Friday, because that's a really good episode that she did, and it fits in what's going on right now. Again, the whole Trayvon Martin case, you'll hear me mention the case back then in last year from March when I did the broadcast on this. That's what I got into this for, was all the race baiting, and you see all the blatant race baiting. Again, you see it subsided because the case wasn't out in the public mind, and it subsided, and then whoosh, it comes back out again, and it's the same people. Now I'm waiting to see if Al Sharpton steps in it and gets in trouble because he does a TV show, and let's see if he goes, because he caught some crap for that last year about whether or not he was there as a journalist or an activist. Like, well, you're here covering it because he was there doing like broadcasts, and then he would be part of the news story itself. So you can't have both. You can't be in the news story and then step out of it and report on it with any type of journalistic integrity. He's not a journalist anyway. 2 words, Tawana Brawley, okay? People need to go look up Tawana Brawley and Al Sharpton. Just put that in any of your favorite search engine of choice. Go to the search bar and type in Al Sharpton, and I guarantee you, if certain ones, if you type in Tawana, it'll probably come up, you'll see under the selection Brawley, and you can click on it. It was a case out of New York City that they said she was a black girl and she was raped by white guys, and I don't remember the exact amount of guys that supposedly attacked her, but it went on for a while, and there was a lot of racial tension in the city over this, and not just in the city but in the country, but especially in the city and in that area. It was really tense. It caused a lot of issues, and it comes out that he lied along with her and made it up. Now, I remember this story from when I was a little kid, okay? I remember this. Al Sharpton is a known liar. His handler, Jesse Jackson, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and he was there when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot in the jaw. Jesse Jackson is known for wiping Martin's blood on him. He's a scumbag. Jesse Jackson's no hero. He's a turd. He's a race-baiting piece of trash. So Sharpton. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that buy into it. And they play it up. They play into it, I should say. And why do they play into it? Why do they get sucked into it? Well, because it's an emotional thing for them. And they've been programmed to get emotional and act like that. See, it's stupid and ignorant for someone to look at the situation and say, oh, that's just because of, that's how they were, that's just how those people react. Those people. When you start thinking like that's how they react. That's when you say they or those people, you're referring to the programming that, well, all black people react like that. Well, did you ever think that maybe that's because it's an emotional reaction that's been programmed into them? Did you ever think maybe that some of the emotional reactions that maybe you have are the same way? We're all programmed to play off one another. That's odd. It's kind of like a game of chess. But who would want to play one side off another? That doesn't make sense unless you're the controllers. Oh, you see? You see? They race bait. It's 2013. It is not like it was 50 years ago. But if you listen to Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or anybody else that pushes that crap, it's just as bad. You know what? Yes, there is racism still. There's racism all over the world. Go in your favorite search engine and look up the, The racial slur database, I think it's called. Or just look that up on your favorite search engine of choice, the racial slur database, and I'm sure it'll come up. One of the listeners to the broadcast, who I like to consider a friend, he posted it on Facebook a while back. He always posts stuff that cracks me up, but he posted this thing on Facebook a while back, and I can't remember what the exact terminology was, but if you look it up, I'm sure you'll find like the racial slur database or whatever, you'll find it. And it's from all around the world. Go read it. Go look at how many different countries have racial slurs for Americans in general. Doesn't matter if you're a black American or an Asian American or a whatever American, whatever little subcategory you want to label yourself in, which is retarded, but that's your own thing. You want to be part of the Borg system, okay? Fine. You're still considered an American. And guess what? Plenty of other countries have racial slurs for us. People buy into this whole they get so mentally controlled, and it gets so simplified because the media and the powers that shouldn't be do this to control us. They get it to where it's literally black versus white, and they play everybody off. That's like the base that they play all of us off, back and forth, back and forth. It's to keep us divided. It's to keep us from realizing that it doesn't matter what color your skin is or what nationality, what country you come from. Although there are slight, small differences on the inside, we're all the same. We're all human. We all operate physiologically the same. We all breathe the same air. We all need blood. We all have beating hearts and lungs that fill with air. But see, the powers that shouldn't be don't want us to see that. They want us to see each other as black or Asian or Latino or white. It's retarded. We're all humans. Stop buying into this bullshit. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Final segment of the first hour. Wow, that went by rather quick. But don't go anywhere. We still have the second hour coming up. So, I'm going to finish up here the first hour. I'm going to continue on with this rant that I was going on, and then we'll get into a few other things in hour two. But it's important to focus on this for a few minutes because people get blinded by it. They don't realize it. Racism is just a tool to divide us. That is it. Something that was taught to us by the elites a very, very long time ago, and it's been passed on from generation to generation to generation over thousands of years. It's a very old school, simple way of controlling us. They get us fighting amongst each other. They get us to pick apart each other for our differences. Marginalize each other for them. Instead of embracing each other for them. Instead of loving each other for our differences. We make fun of each other for our differences. We pick on each other because of our differences. We laugh at each other because of our differences. We point fingers and laugh like a bunch of Pavlovian morons. We're taught to laugh at whatever is different. To look at outside-the-box thinkers as crazy nutbags who might hurt you. We're taught that if you don't go with the flow, you're not cool. And that everybody will point fingers and laugh. And that's the worst feeling in the world. So it's better to go with the flow. See how easy they control us? They understand how our minds work, ladies and gentlemen. Don't feel bad if you realize while listening to this broadcast or any of the others that I do, and you realize, oh my God, some of the stupid things that I thought in the past, I've come to this level where all of a sudden that I realize that was an ignorant way of thinking. Well, don't get mad at yourself for that. These people, the powers that shouldn't be, are good at what they do. Remember, they call themselves the illuminated ones. The Illuminati. And whatever other groups they're called. But you want to use an umbrella term, the Illuminati. They call themselves illuminated, right? Why is that? Because they can see in the dark. Well, the darkness is all around you. Basically, the whole concept of the owl is a symbol of secret societies going back a long time, but it means that the people that are part of that society can see in the dark like the owl can. The darkness that is all around you, they can see things that others can't. It's like being able to see things in the Matrix that other people couldn't see because they're still plugged in. And what scares the crap out of the powers that shouldn't be is a lot of you are waking up, and more of you are doing it every day. And they're scared because eventually it's going to snowball and they're not going to be able to control it. And that's why they keep us fighting amongst each other. That's why they want to pit black versus white, Latino versus white versus black, citizen versus cop. You see that getting pushed a lot lately. They need us fighting amongst each other. Again, this country cannot be taken down from outside. Not without a hell of a fight. It would be too costly for any army in any country. It would be too costly for any coalition of armies. And there would be certainly people that would back us up. So how do you take down a country like the United States of America? You do it the way they almost did it over 100 years ago. They've already done this. Anyone remember the Civil War? They're doing this very same thing again. They're going to pit the people of this country against one another so they fight each other and kill one another. That way, they can come in with their foreign armies and mercenaries and mop up what's left and form a new country. And they're actually doing a better job than they did back then, even though the two sides fought. Because the people are snitching on each other and going at each other like never before. And we need to stop it. We need to pull our heads out of our collective asses and see what's going on around us. It's time to wake up from our slumber, ladies and gentlemen, and regain our true power, and then evolve and move on to the next step in humanity. I, for one, look forward to it. I'll see you again in 59 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com, and here in hour number 2, I'm going to get into a few topics that I did kind of tease you with in hour number 1, and I never got into them because I needed more time, and I was ranting in hour number 1, so I wanted to push the last few things that I wanted to get into to the second hour because I needed an appropriate amount of time and I did not want to rush them. One of them is going to be Michael Hastings' death. A few more things. We're going to get into that. And I want to touch on Kokesh's arrest. And then, of course, the whole violation of the Third Amendment. I think one of the amendments that nobody ever thought that they would really see violated, although I'm sure most people didn't think that they'd see any of the other amendments violated either, but hey, you know, what's the Constitution but a GD piece of paper, according to George W. Bush? Third Amendment violation. Quartering troops in your house. That's the Third Amendment. Because back in the day, the British troops were made, you know, they would come in and people were made to quarter British troops in their homes. Yeah. Well, you have a situation like that with militarized police in Nevada. We'll get into that. But I'm going to get into Kokesh first. If you don't know what happened to Adam Kokesh, in fact, some people were messaging me yesterday while I was on air. I saw it in the chat room, and then I was getting messaged on Skype and Facebook, and people were hitting me up on Twitter. Adam Kokesh, I'm sure most of you know who he is. He's been on the broadcast before. I've interviewed him. He's a host of Adam versus the Man. Does, I think it's 5 days a week, at least he does. He does a ton of videos. Him and his crew are constantly putting out videos. He's the guy that put together the 4th of July armed march on Washington, D.C., which didn't kick off. But on the 4th of July, he did a video where he loaded a shotgun down in Washington, and he... whether or not it was real rounds being put into it or the dummy training rounds, we don't know yet, but he was subsequently raided last night by the Park Police and I think it's Herndon, Virginia Police Department. But they rolled up, the Park Police were the ones that rolled up with their little SWAT gear, and I guess they wanted to play with their stuff. And they had 2 helicopters and a light armored vehicle there, along with probably at least 4 or 5 cop cars, and other vehicles that probably belonged to detectives and stuff that were their own personal cars, which they used for whatever reason. I guess it's a tax write-off. So there had to be, I don't know, according to some of the reports, I saw pictures, there had to be at least, with the light armored vehicle, the police vehicle, there had to be at least 5 or 6 vehicles right in the front of the house alone. And I'm going from memory because I don't have the picture in front of me right now. And then they blocked off the whole street, so there were SUVs and cop cars up at the ends of the street, so you couldn't get down. Again, 2 helicopters. All because a guy loaded a shotgun? Really? I mean, are you guys that, like, wimpy that you can't just go knock on the door and handle it that way? You need to bust the door in and throw a flashbang grenade in. Really? We'll be right back. Alright, we are back. So, let's continue with this Adam Kokesh thing, and I'm going to move on to a few other things, but this actually also dovetails with when I played the audio from Luke Rudkowski getting screwed with in the beginning of the first hour there, and I said people got to watch their backs. Well, they raided Kokesh's house yesterday. And of course, I don't agree with how they did it. I mean, if the cops were, and they even said they expected the cops to come talk to them about the video, but they didn't think they were going to SWAT team the house. But in this day and age, a SWAT raid is the preferred method now, and they say we always do it for reasons of the element of surprise, basically. That's why they do a paramilitary style raid. That way you can't throw, because their whole goal is they don't want you to destroy any evidence that might incriminate you. They want to be able to bust your door in and catch you off guard and come in and steal your, I guess you could say steal your evidence, steal your stuff, and then call it evidence in a case that they a BS case that they bring against you and lock you up for whatever little reason they'd like to do so. They can't just knock on the door and say, hey, we have a warrant for this, that, the other thing. And that's the proper way. It's the way they used to do things back in the day. But after 9/11, and before 9/11, they were doing paramilitary-style SWAT raids already. But after 9/11, they just ramped it up because now there's a war on. There's terrorists everywhere, and you can't just serve a warrant the old-fashioned way and knock and say, hey, we have a search warrant, we'd like to come in, or we're coming in, but you have if you need to get dressed or whatever. No, it's knock, knock, knock. They swing back the battering ram, boom, bust in your front door, and toss in a flashbang grenade. Now, how many times have people been killed that way already? How many times have innocent people been killed and shot in these paramilitary-style raids? Seriously. Why do we need them? Because there's a war on scum, Popeye. No. You people are steroid-head a-holes. Half of you morons running into we got rah, I'm SWAT guy, rah. No, you're a jerk-off. Seriously. How would you like if someone did that to your grandmother? And they SWAT teamed her and shot her in the face because she moved and they thought that she was going for a weapon. I get so pissed off because anytime that these agencies get an excuse to use their frigging toys, they want to use it. It's ridiculous. You don't need to go to that extent with people. Like, granted, yeah, he made a video where he loaded a shotgun. Big deal, he loaded a shotgun. So loading a shotgun now brings a paramilitary-style raid to your house. Obviously, it's been like that for a long time. I'm just using it as an example. And do I agree with everything Kokesh does either? No, I don't. I've openly said that on air. But I just think raiding the guy's house, smashing his front door in, and chucking a flashbang grenade into his residence, that's a bit overkill. I really think it's a bit overkill. But see, these police departments, they want any excuse they can to, whether they be federalized, police goons or, state or local police goons, does not matter. Although the state and local police are federalized pretty much because they're militarized with all the crap that the government gives them, whether it be money or literally military equipment. But this is ridiculous. I mean, this has become the norm. It really has. In fact, I have a website which I plan on. I'm going to probably spend at least an hour just reading some of the stories to you off of. It's about. It's a site, and I forget who put it together now. I have to go because this was like last week when I found it. But it's a site, and again, I forget who put it together, but it was put together to showcase, and I don't think it's all of them, but I think at least what whoever put it together, I can't remember the exact circumstances, but there's well over, I would say, 300 or 400 cases, if not more, alone on this map of paramilitary-style raids, going back from like the 80s till now. And I think they claim that it's all of them, but it doesn't. I mean, maybe that is only all of them, and maybe there is only 500 or 400 or whatever the number that's on there. But you hear this stuff so often, it just seems like there's more. But even that many is out of control. Anyway, when you look at each one, you can zone in on like a state, right? When you look at the country, it's pretty bad because they're all over the place. But then you can zone in on certain states, or each state, I should say, and then go into each county, go county by county, and then you can keep zooming in, and then it'll take you down. Like as you zoom in, it's like more and more of them are popping up as you get closer and closer to the, as you're zooming in on the map, and you highlight each one. And by the way, it's interesting how a lot of these raids take place within blocks of each other, and they're in specific spots in these cities. It's kind of interesting how you can see almost like they're targeting specific areas. But anyway, a lot of these raids, half of them, somebody dies innocently in them, or they raid the wrong house. I mean, it hasn't been raids where they've been justified. I should say that because there's a lot more SWAT raids. These are raids that went wrong on this map. So it's not like these are the only raids that have happened in the country. It's just these are the ones where someone got killed, or it was not warranted or justified, or something bad happened like that. There's a lot of raids in there where I would say 50% of the raids that I saw in there that where an officer was injured, because they have those where it's like if it's a case where an officer was injured or killed, it's a separate color than one of the other ones, and you could just tally up those alone. And I would say 50% of those cases alone were where the officer was injured or killed. It wasn't some of them, they were shot by somebody who lived in the house and they were just defending themselves because they didn't know who was raiding them at 3 o'clock in the morning with ski masks on and no visible badges. Yeah, because that's smart, by the way. But by the way, good tactics, guys. I don't know who teaches you people common sense, but raiding someone's house with no badges visible and ski masks on at 3 o'clock in the morning, yeah, that's going to get you shot, morons. And as officers, you ought to have enough common sense to know that. If you don't, then you shouldn't have that badge or that uniform. You shouldn't. It's just the way it is. I mean, if you don't have the brain power to figure it out that, you know, dressing up in ski masks and busting in someone's house at 3 o'clock in the morning could get you shot, well, then I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, at least 50% of these cases where they get shot, it's by other cops. There's one case where they were using a battering ram to open a door, and as the guy's getting ready to open the door, or it wasn't a battering ram, it was a spreader. And it was a hydraulic spreader I think they were using to pop the door. And as they were using it as the guy was setting it up, the guys behind him, one of them got overzealous or tripped or whatever it was, and shot him in the head. I mean, and killed his own guy right there. And it's stupid. Like it goes to show you that these people, they get them all amped up, all feared out and adrenaline up, and half of them are steroid head idiots anyway. They got picked on in high school, and now they're going to get back at everybody. And you know, again, they hire people that have less than 100 IQ or less now because they don't want smart people. So they get them all amped up. Get them all, you know. Yeah. Then they kick the door in. We're war on scum, throwing grenades in, shooting all over the place. They killed a little girl, was it last year or 2 years ago? She was like 7 years old. They shot her in the head and ended up, and there was another one that was injured. I don't know, maybe I think she might have been injured because of the flashbang, and then she was shot in the head. It was something to that effect. There's another one where a guy there was a kid that was burned in the bed because a flashbang grenade was tossed through the window into the kid's bedroom, and it landed on the kid in the bed. I mean, it's insane. You can't just knock on Kokesh's door? I don't know. Seeing this stuff is pissing me off. So, I mean, the paramilitary style raids need to stop. People need to, you want to go out and protest or go to your city councils about something? Go to your city councils about this. Everybody needs to go to their city councils and start demanding that they start doing away with this crap. Well, Popeye, that makes us safer. No, it doesn't make you safer. What happens when you're the perp and there's SWAT team in your house? Oh, that'll never happen. Really? Are you sure? Are you sure? People are getting arrested for having gardens in their front yards. People are getting arrested because they use old tires as planters. And it's a code violation. And because they refuse to get rid of them, they're getting arrested for it. There's people getting arrested and facing, I mean, the guy got off for this, but he got arrested and he was facing, I think it was like 2 years or something at least, for drawing with chalk on a sidewalk in front of a bank. Oh, how dare he. It's a symptom, they're all symptoms of a much larger problem, and that would be the police state that we have. And I don't want to hear, well, you know, we need it to keep us safer. It doesn't keep, how does any of that keep us safer? How does SWAT teaming someone's house at 3 o'clock in the morning and shooting all of their dogs and possibly killing somebody in the house, how is that keeping them safer? And half of these raids are done in the name of the war on drugs. Because we're fighting scum. we're taking drug dealers down one dirtbag at a time. No, you're not. You're raiding like grow houses, marijuana grow houses. If you guys were really going to have a war on drugs, you'd go fight the CIA. Or you'd secure the border down south. But you don't. You don't have to put a wall. Have a roving wall. Have the military down there. I mean, that's what the National Guard is for. Oh, that's right. They're too busy getting ready and getting trained to go over to places like Egypt and guard the border of Egypt. Oh, yeah. Or getting ready and trained maybe to get sent over to Syria. Or God knows where else. Again, you want to stop the illegal drug trade, shut the CIA down. And I forget what senator it was. It's either a senator or a congressman. You can go look this up. He's quoted as saying that. It would, sometime within the past, we'll say 30 years. Because I can't remember exactly what year it was and the person that said it right now. But there's a congressman or a senator. I like giving you guys little homework assignments. Go out and try to find this one. And see if you guys can find out who it was. Because I can't remember right now. My brain is just packed with too much stuff. Sometimes it goes round and round and round. Anyway, he made the same comment. You really want to stop the illegal drug trade in the United States, shut down the CIA. They're the ones that smuggle drugs and use the money from that smuggling to do their black operations. That way it's off the books. There's no accounting for it. They don't have to go to Congress and listen to Congress bitch and moan at them or threaten to shut things down or shut things down. They don't have to go kiss Congress's ass or even assassinate congressmen. They just bring drugs in. And they smuggle them all over the world. And drugs are used for other things. They trade drugs for weapons. But hey, it's national security, right? I mean, we smuggle heroin and cocaine and stuff. National security. Who's Barry Seal? Barry Seal? Who's Barry Seal? Cocaine Cowboys? What? Who are the Cocaine Cowboys, Popeye? Oh, maybe you should go look that up, huh? Go watch the movie. Rent it on Netflix. You won't be sorry. Go watch it. Go learn who Barry Seal was. Who he was connected to. Who the drug cartels in MENA were connected to right here in the United States. I'm not talking about MENA, Arkansas, although they did bring... They did bring drugs and stuff into that airport. You know, has anybody ever seen? I can't remember the name of the movie now. It's called it's called The Boys on the Tracks. The book is called The Boys on the Tracks. But there's a documentary that goes along with it where the mother of one of the kids that was killed, she's the one that was, I think she either wrote the book or she was heavily involved with the book, The Boys on the Tracks, but there's a documentary out about it too. Anyway, this all goes Bill Clinton, Bush Sr., drugs, CIA, dirty, dirty dealings. So you really want to have a war on drugs. The proper way to do it would be to shut the CIA down, arrest George Bush, Bill Clinton, their underlings. Oh, we can't do that. I know. Better to go arrest the guy for smoking a joint. We'll be right back. Sometimes I'm embarrassed to live in the state of Florida. I really am. This state finds new and amazing ways to make all Floridians just look like douchebags. I mean, not that Florida doesn't attract its own level of douchebaggery. It does. I often crack jokes about my state, but man, this just takes the cake. Florida accidentally has banned all computers and smartphones in the state. I'm not kidding. Listen to this.
A really crazy story from Florida, where computers are apparently now banned. Back in April, Florida Governor Rick Scott approved a ban on slot machines in internet cafes, but legislators worded the bill so poorly that they effectively outlawed every computer in the state. Now, the move came after a charity tied to Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll was shut down on suspicion of being an internet gambling front.
So the lieutenant governor has a website or is connected to a website that is suspected to be a internet gambling front. It's an illegal internet gambling front, right? So they respond by making a law banning. It's supposed to. You'll hear a little bit more of an explanation. It's supposed to stop. I think it was slot machines inside of internet cafes or something like that, something to that effect. But the wording of the bill, because these politicians are such morons, and most of them are so out of touch with reality and with things around them, because half of them are like 90 years old. And no offense to the old people, but you know what? There should be term limits, and there should be age limits for when people can, like, what age up to you can serve, okay? Because there's certain people that, you know, they don't understand newer technology, we'll say. They have no idea. You know, to them, vinyl records are still a new thing. I'm not kidding. You know, I mean, some of these congressmen, the way they act, it's like, do you guys have a jitterbug phone where it's just got the police, 411 and fire on it? Seriously. And get with the 21st century. Anyway, back to the audio.
So, Zach, break down the actual language of the ban for us, if you will.
This is so awesome. Florida politics are just some of the most crazy and pointless politics in the country. Basically, there was a ban on, as you were saying, Ahmed, on on internet cafes for any device or system, I believe maybe network or system, that could be linked to internet gambling. And so it's an amazing sort of double overreach of legislative.
And before he even goes any further, do you understand how that bans any computer and smartphone? Anything that could connect to internet gambling. Your smartphone you can go to an internet gambling website on your smartphone or on your computer. Even if you have one of those Apple computers that turns your TV into a computer, or you have one of those little Android computers that you can order online. It's like a little Android operating system, and you could plug it into your TV and make your TV like a big monitor. Yeah, even if you have one of those, guess what? It's now banned. And douchebag Rick Scott actually signed this into law. That guy is, I'm convinced that guy is just drinking the fascist Kool-Aid. He's horrible. He's a crook in his own right, but he's one of those people that is in power, and he'll go along with the powers that shouldn't be to get along. So he's a criminal in his own right. I could go on and on and on. Anyway, back to the audio.
Response here. The problem they were dealing with was internet gambling connected to the lieutenant governor. And instead of just investigating the lieutenant governor and the the illegal internet gambling things that she may or may not have been funneling money to, the state decided to shut down all internet cafes. So you want to go and get a cup of coffee and connect to the Wi-Fi? No, you cannot do that anymore. That's banned. And the language of the internet cafe ban is so broad that it actually bans all computers, because just about anything can be connected to an internet gambling server and allow you to gamble on the internet. So smartphone, a computer, a laptop, an iPad, all of that stuff technically illegal under the wording of the Florida statute.
The people bringing a lawsuit against this ban, what's their stake in this?
Well, there is this lawsuit against it because they're internet cafe providers operators who actually want to run their legitimate businesses, because they, like most coffee shops and stuff, you're just running a business. You're not a front for some sort of gambling operation. The idea here is that you've been improperly shut down, and by bringing up the fact that this legislation not only shuts down all internet cafes but also makes all computers illegal, you point out that there's a problem with the statute, and then hopefully get the statute overturned in court.
Well, I mean, that's just retarded. I couldn't make this up if I tried. I mean, more retarded legislation I have not seen in a while. We'll be right back. All right, I want to switch gears and finish up the broadcast with two other things. Last two pieces. One is on Michael Hastings. The other is on the Nevada Police Department raiding, or the Nevada. Like, there's one police department in Nevada, Popeye. Good job. A Nevada Police Department violating the Third Amendment. I would say just most of the Bill of Rights, this person's civil liberties, their personal. I don't know. I mean, just going overboard. We're going to get into that in a second, but first I want to focus on Michael Hastings, and you'll see the insanity of the Nevada thing in a second. They actually forced 2 sets of people out of their houses so that they could monitor somebody else's house. I'll get into that in a second. Anyway, I want to focus on Michael Hastings for a minute. His death. I did a whole show where I spent about an hour, at least, going over his death and the Boston Brakes method and how they could remotely control cars. And there's a lot of people out there that would say, especially the mainstream media will say, oh, you people are crazy. There's no such thing as any of this stuff. You conspiracy retards. Ha, ha, ha. Well, a local news station, San Diego 6, out in, obviously, San Diego, California, did a news piece on this. And one of the reporters actually, they did a pretty good piece. It's about 3 minutes and 50 seconds. But one of the reporters, actually, surprisingly, is a reporter doing what a reporter should do, trying to get the facts. And she tried to get in touch with the LAPD to get a report, and they're not giving out a report. They're remaining tight-lipped. She tried to talk to the first responders. They're being told, not only they're being tight-lipped, but they're being told to not talk to anybody. There's just a lot of shadiness surrounding the death of Michael Hastings for it to have been just an accident. So let me play this local report. Again, this isn't, some conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing retard. No. It's a local news agency saying the same things that the independent media does. Listen.
Been nearly 3 weeks since Michael Hastings was killed in a fiery car accident in West L.A. You may recall this story. The award-winning journalist captured fame with his 2010 Rolling Stone wartime article that forced General Stanley McChrystal to resign as commander of the U.S. forces in Afghanistan. This week, Kimberly Dvorak spent the day in Los Angeles to learn more about this accident. She joins us now on set talking a little bit about what she learned. And, it's not really into conspiracy theories so much, but it really is about finding out the facts about what happened here. Aren't we interested in that?
Yes, absolutely. There are a number of scenarios that could have played out, and it's still too early in the investigation as nobody's been granted the police report, that details exactly what happened on scene. But clearly, there are a couple things that stood out in my mind when I went up and visited the scene and visited law enforcement.
What stood out in your mind? You said you couldn't get the police report. They weren't giving that out.
Yeah.
So what else stood out in your mind?
Well, the fact that when you go to the L.A. Police Department, then you go to the fire department, and you go to the different agencies, they all said they couldn't comment, and some of them said they were told not to comment on the story. So that kind of stands out. If, we look at the NSA, the government says if you have nothing to hide, don't worry. I think it kind of has a reverse role here. Now,
Bam! Local reporter just scores the first slam dunk. The NSA says, hey, if you got nothing to hide, if you're not worried about hiding anything, there's nothing shady going on, you shouldn't have anything to hide. Let us spy in your email. And yet when you try to get a police report on a supposed very public one-car vehicle accident, supposedly the car just hit a tree, right, and blew up, why all the secrecy? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
I think we have video of the scene. If we could show the video, you can see what we're kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. There is the actual scene.
Okay, so as far as the accident goes and things that we do know, it was an extremely hot fire, and I've talked to military personnel who have said that this is a extremely hot fire, that this is not something you normally see with a car like this. This is a 2013 Mercedes-Benz, and the statement from Mercedes said that they are aware of the accident and waiting to help the LAPD, but they have not got the call from Los Angeles Police Department as of yet. So,
oh, interesting. Why wouldn't the LAPD call Mercedes and say, hey, is it normal for your cars to explode on impact, one of your 2013 vehicles to explode on impact? I mean, I know they're luxury cars and people pay like $50,000, $60,000 for some of the vehicles that you guys produce. But I would assume that the first thing you guys would make sure is that they didn't blow up in an accident, right? I mean, that would be a phone call that any smart detective would want to make. Any detective worth his salt, worth his weight in gold, that would be the first question he would ask. Any real detective, any real investigation. But see, the LAPD, they got a history of covering things up. They've been shady for a long time, so it doesn't surprise me that they'd be working hand in hand with probably the CIA. Maybe DIA, probably CIA, though. Could be a mix of DIA and CIA, but wouldn't surprise me if they were working hand in hand with the CIA and they killed them. But I digress. Let's get back to the video.
That intensity of the fire is very concerning, and also the placement of the engine and the drivetrain, as we see here. They are completely between 150 and 250 feet from the accident. However, the car was going south, and the engine and drivetrain were behind it. And after I spoke with a couple of university physics professors, they said in an accident like this, the engines and whatnot would go with the forward velocity of.
Oh, you mean so it's kind of weird that they were in the opposite direction of what they should have been? And I guess she was smart for going and talking to a physics professor. But hey, what do they know? I mean, they're just probably, those guys are probably conspiracy physics professors.
So what does your gut tell you in something like this? You've been on a lot of these stories. What are you looking at, and where are you going with this?
Well, I'm looking at all possibilities. I mean, he could have been drinking and driving. That's certainly something he could have done. He was near the clubs on Sunset Boulevard, so that's a possibility. But I'm more...
Even though his family and his friends said that he hasn't had a drink in over 10 years, he doesn't drink, he doesn't speed, he drives like he drove like a grandma, very slow, hasn't had a sip to drink in over 10 years, at least. And suddenly he'd go out drinking and drive like an a-hole into a tree? Right.
More inclined to believe that there were absolutely zero skid marks. So something else happened. Either the car malfunctioned or something was on the car that allowed that to trigger and blow up. Mercedes says their cars just don't blow up. They take great care for them not to do so.
You said something also very interesting, that cars can be remotely controlled. Is that... You'd mentioned something to that effect.
Absolutely, and that came out of the University of San Diego here. They did a report in 2010, which they took like a basic car, like a Nissan Sentra, and using an iPad like we all have here on the desk, they were able to hack into the car system and operate the accelerator, the brakes, windshield wipers, lights, steering. So there are so many factors in play here. There's a lot more investigation that needs to be taken here, and I will continue to follow it. Obviously, if there's any kind of foul play involved, we want to make sure we get that out to the public, although the LAPD has already ruled foul play out of this, which means that we should have access to these police reports in a timely manner.
Kim Dvorak, thanks this morning.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Wow. San Diego 6, way to go. Not often I'll give kudos to a regular news station, but wow. And I don't know the reporter. I mean, they could be tools at some other point, but at least they had the courage to air this piece. I haven't seen Fox, CNN, ABC, CBS, CNN, any of these scumbag networks that toe the party line and feed you nothing but propaganda garbage. Do you see them actually investigating this? No. They don't go in and do investigations. They pick up stories from smaller affiliates and then run with it. And if they actually do an investigation, it's usually garbage. It's usually crap. You don't see real journalism anymore, except maybe on the local level. This didn't get picked up, though, did it? I don't see this getting talked about. Again, Mercedes, 2013. Somehow I doubt that they want the general public to believe the idea that their cars burst into flames. I suggest if anybody wants a real, or at least maybe a push for a real investigation into this, or an independent investigation into this. Maybe people should start contacting Mercedes and say, hey, look, I was going to buy one of your vehicles, but I can't because I'm afraid, since Michael Hastings has crashed, that your car is going to veer in. If I have an accident with the car, maybe I sideswipe a tree or I rear end somebody, I'm afraid it's going to explode. And I don't want to burst into flames on the highway and die a fiery death, so I'm not going to buy one of your vehicles. Maybe if more people started doing that, they'd put more pressure on the LAPD to get to do an independent investigation. But that's going to happen. I mean, the LAPD has a history, and I'm not talking about Rodney King either. Go look what happened with Bobby Kennedy's murder. They have a way of covering things up. Unfortunately, the LAPD is corrupt, so you can't trust them to do an independent investigation into this. If I were Hastings' family, I'm sure they have enough money in his estate, because the guy, I'm sure he's not rich, but I'm sure if he could afford to pay for a Mercedes in 2013, he had to have some money, right? I would go hire an independent investigator. Have him look into what happened. They can't stop him from looking into, especially since the police ruled that there was no foul play and it was just an accident already. So if you start getting obstructed by the cops, well, why are you obstructing it? I thought there was no foul play. There's nothing to worry about. I'm sure their answer would be, yeah, there is nothing to worry about. That's why you should just move along and go write a story about something else. Yeah, okay, tough guy. You and your costume and your toy badge you think it gives you power because you think you look cool in that crap. The world saw how powerless you were when you were chasing one of your own months ago, and how you acted like unprofessional, scared children shooting at everything and anything, including little old ladies in a pickup truck. Despicable. Very despicable. So I don't expect a real investigation out of there. I would go if I was the family, I would push for it. I would go hire an independent investigator, but I would make sure you hire somebody that knows what they're doing too. If you're going to pay somebody and if you're going to have them look into this, hire somebody that has some background, maybe the right connections, because in a case like this, they could easily, if you hire the wrong person, they could easily get scared off. I've seen it time and time again. PIs will come back and be like, here's your money back. I want nothing to do with this. Or, this is what I found out. I want nothing to do with this. If you got any further if you need anything else, you can go to the police. It's a matter for the police to look into. That's usually how PIs handle cases that they don't want to get into. They point it off on the person, tell them to go get the police involved. So if I was a family, I would want somebody that maybe had some connections, maybe former government agent or something that is a PI now. At least they'd have those connections. Just an idea. Anyway, I think Hastings was murdered. I think they remotely controlled his car one way or another. Boston Brake style into the tree with an incendiary device under the gas tank aimed into the cabin to finish him off. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Final segment of tonight's broadcast. Wow, it went by fast. Nevada cops come into your private homes and arrest residents for objecting. What? Say what? Violation of the Third Amendment. I don't care if they're police. I know the Third Amendment says soldiers, but really, is there a difference anymore? Courthouse News Service. Henderson police arrested a family for refusing to let officers use their homes as lookouts for a domestic violence investigation of their neighbors, the family claims in court. Anthony Mitchell and his parents, Michael and Linda Mitchell, sued the city of Henderson, its police chief, and a slew of different officers, and a couple other cities' police chiefs, I guess because they were involved in the raid. The family's claim includes Third Amendment violations, a rare claim in the United States. The Third Amendment prohibits quartering soldiers in citizens' homes in times of peace without the consent of the owner. On the morning of July 10th, 2011, officers from the Henderson Police Department responded to a domestic violence call at a neighbor's residence. At 10:45 a.m., one of the officers contacted Anthony Mitchell, which is one of the homeowners. He told the plaintiff that the police needed to occupy his house in order to gain a, quote, tactical advantage against the guy next door. Told the officer he did not want to become involved and that he did not want police to enter his residence. Then the cop kept insisting that he should leave his residence and let the cops go use it. The guy said, "No, I'm not allowing you in my home, and I do not want you in here." And then the cops decided amongst themselves that they were going to raid the guy's house and arrest him and forcibly remove him from his home, which they did. They kicked the door in and proceeded to make him get on the ground, and then his dog, who was laying there doing nothing wrong, and him, who were on the ground, were pepperballed, which are basically it's a paintball but with pepper rounds, which they're nasty. Okay, one of these things, just one pepper ball, like if there was somebody, like a group of ignorant little a-holes in a car traveling around throwing things out the windows, we'll say, and you shot just one of these things into the car and it hit the roof of the car inside and dispersed inside the car, one of those would be good enough to knock everybody out with the pepper in their eyes. That's how powerful these things are. And they repeatedly pepperballed him and his innocent dog. At least they didn't kill the dog. Then they proceeded to search his house. Search it. No warrant. No warrant needed. No cause. No probable cause. We're the cops. We have these costumes that we got over at Party City with these toy badges and these toys are little bat utility belts, so we think we're better than you. So F you and your rights. You should be thankful we didn't kill you and your dog. So they go and they move furniture, they search his house, and then after they search it, they proceed to move furniture so that they can set up a better tactical view of the neighbor's house. And they went to the house on the other side, because apparently, this house was in a row of houses, right, or on a street. So they went to the house on the one side and the house on the other. Well, this guy's parents happen to own the house on the other side of this neighbor's house. They did the same thing to them. They dragged I guess the husband went out to the command center. I guess they got him out of the house under false pretenses, and then they wouldn't let him out of the command center that they had, the little mobile command center they had set up in the street. And then I think they went in and dragged the woman out of the house. If you read further through the article, it's over on Courthouse News. I'll post a link to it on Federal Jack. I'll post a blurb with a link back to it. But this really happened. I mean, they went in and arrested these people, detained them, shot them with pepper balls, searched their house illegally, all because there was a domestic violence situation at the neighbor's house, and they wanted to gain a, quote, tactical advantage on them. What are you guys, a tactical advantage on a domestic violence situation? Would you go check it out and they wouldn't let you in the house? The wife said, no, we're all good. And then you guys decided not to leave, so you wanted to spy on him and see what he did from next door? You don't think that they're gonna see the command center down the street? Maybe the guy was violent. Maybe there was some sort, they had to go raid him because maybe he had a gun, or he was violent with his wife or whatever. Still, tactical advantage. So you just go in and you decide you're going to violate someone else's rights and take them out of their home because you want tactical advantage. Well, we're the police, man. That's the way it works. No, it's not the way it works. That's why you have a bad name. That's why people don't respect you, because of things like that. We live in bizarro world police state, ladies and gentlemen, and if you don't do something and get up and physically get involved so we can turn things around for the better, it's only going to get worse. But the power lies within all of you out there in listening distance, that whoever hears this broadcast, however you hear it, the power lies in you to stop this. Remember, I tell you all the time, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. We all have the power to turn this around, but first we have to be aware that the problem exists. And with that, we're out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you all. We'll get through this. We can. I have no doubt. I'll see you all again tomorrow night. I love you. I'm out of here.